Hey guys, welcome back again to Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy, where the proof is in the singing. I'm continuing my series on how to sing like, and next up is Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden. Before we get started, if you wouldn't mind, please like and subscribe to my channel. That would be awesome. Don't forget to ring that bell so I can keep new cool videos coming your way. And I also have a singing course. It's called How to Sing Better Than Anyone Else, where we negotiate all these different styles of music. And I don't just present it and show it with my own voice, but I show it with my voice and my students' voices on how many different types of people, different voice types, etc., can get to these crazy, amazing places for singing. So Bruce is certainly no exception to that. Now, I've done a couple vocal demonstrations myself. I did Run to the Hills, and my student Gabriela Gunchikova did Trooper. So I'm going to walk through a few of these, but I want to explain some key elements of what it is that Bruce uses and the kind of compression that he uses to start with, and also the kind of head voice, mixed voice sound that he uses in order to get the range that he has, the clarity, the power, the tone, the pitch, and all that. So with that said, I'm going to start with myself, and we're going to go ahead right here, Run to the Hills. Okay, right there. So there's an illusion that all of a sudden, I'm singing really heavy and really loud. White man came across the sea. He brought us pain and misery, right? I'm not singing that hard or that loud. And I want you to go back to the original of Bruce Dickinson and listen closely to the way he sings. It sounds like he's just pounding it and killing it. He's actually not. He's compressing his air and he's controlling his air with the amount of distortion that he wants in his voice in order to maintain being able to sing that. The other thing is that when he goes up top and he starts to go into connecting the chest voice, the belting call register we've talked about a lot, going through the passaggio, seamlessly as he goes in and out the passaggio break. You don't hear his break, but he brings his head voice down pretty low so that as he goes up into his head voice, he's able to lean into that sound a little bit more and give him all this range that we talk about in my singing course. So let's continue as I start to escalate up the scale. You can hear me as I start to kind of let go and shed that weight of over singing in the bottom, and I start to release into head voice. Check it out.
We fought him hard, we fought him well, out on the plains, we gave him hell, but many came, too much for greed, will we ever be set free?
Okay, now, so we gave him hell, I'm not going, I'm not screaming at you, right? I'm actually deceiving you a little bit, and I'm making you think that I'm singing louder and heavier than I am. Now, this next section couldn't be be a better example of what I'm talking about. Check this out.
Riding through desktops and barren waste, galloping hard on the plains, chasing the redskins back to their holes, fighting them at their own game. Freedom, the stab in the back, women and children and cowards and die.
See, so women and children and right, and he's got a very dramatic approach. As what's it been name, right? So he's actually really kind of bringing his head voice down into the chest voice pretty low. So it's not like, like maybe, I'm going to say like a Freddie Mercury who would bring his chest voice up high, who actually belted more in the upper mid register of his call register, his belting register voice, or let's say a Dio or David Coverdale or anybody, a number of these rock guys from back in the day. He's bringing his head voice down pretty low, and that's really apparent when you hear it on the chorus. Check this out.
Run to the hills, run for your life.
Now, if you listen really close, run for your life, Right in there is that register break transition. So I have a choice. I can bring the chest voice up with a percentage of mix into that one note right there, or I can, or pull chest up all completely into that sound, or I can mix and bring head voice down into that sound as well. So I have this kind of 3, 4, 5 notes to play with around this range where I don't have to muscle the chest voice and literally heave up my vowels up top, or blood curdling scream at you of just trying to drag all that weight. Though I do that sometimes for effect. Oftentimes, I even did that in Painkiller by Judas Priest, because that's another example. Rob Halford is another great example, and I'm going to do a series of these, and he's going to be one of the guys where there's a lot of head voice involved, where Rob mostly takes his head voice and brings it really low down into his chest voice. Very similar to this. Now, Bruce is more of a master at connecting the sound and not letting you know when he actually makes that. Makes that connection through chest and head, but you can't really hear me do it either, and I'm really emulating or imitating his style to give you guys a taste of what it is that he's doing. One more thing, notice again, and I'm going to say this over and over again, I really want to emphasize this, is I am not killing myself and pushing too hard through the passaggio, so you don't hear my register break, because as I cover in my singing course, I show you how to seamlessly connect those notes so it's one long powerful note, like I just showed you a second. Through that passaggio without hearing the break. Okay, listen up.
Run to the hills, run for your lives.
I'll let it play a little more.
Blue in the barren waste, hunting and killing the game, raping the women and wasting the men. The only good engines are tame, selling them whiskey and taking their gold.
Even that, selling them whiskey and taking their gold. Right? I'm in head voice. I'm not in chest voice. I'm in head voice. It sounds like I'm in chest because I built the power of my head voice up so much down in my lower register that it makes you think that I'm pulling my chest voice up. I can do that. I do it all the time. But in the style and in the spirit of Bruce, I don't. I stay within what Bruce does, and then I continue on into the chorus. Check it out. Whoops.
The young and destroying the earth.
That's chest.
Run to the hills, run for your lives, run to the hills.
Okay, now I could continue on, and I'm going to go ahead and I'll post the links of the full versions of these songs and the tutorial parts that I talk about. I'll put those in the description so you guys can check those out. But I want to go ahead now and do Gabriela Gunchikova, my student. Now, Gabriela is a girl, so you say, well, Ken, it's not fair. She's a girl and girls can sing higher. That's true to some extent, but let me tell you something about the female range. Now, in her case, she sings in the alto register, and a lot of girls that sing in the alto register sing a lot like a guy like Bruce Dickinson, and they can have a lot of power in it, where they're, she sings, like a Bobby Kimball song from Toto, she can kill it, or she sings Jane by Jefferson Starship, Mickey Thomas, some of these other singers. It may on the one hand seem easier, but on the other hand, it's actually not, because girls have a much more difficult time managing their belting register because they want to default into their head voice, just like I showed you I did for Bruce. The difference is their head voices, because for the most part, are nowhere near as powerful as a guy's head voice when it's developed, because a guy's vocal folds, their chords, are a lot larger. They're 60% larger for the most part. And so they have a really tough time because their head voice or their falsetto or reinforced falsetto is really hooty and fluty. So they can't get that same kind of power. So she has to rely either on growing that head voice to sound like Bruce and bringing it down in head, or she has to pull up that chest voice from a female register and then hand it off later into the head voice, which is what we chose to do. And then one more thing, it's a lot more difficult because of that. It's a lot more difficult for girls to get good distortion and distortion in the head voice register. That's why you hear so few girls doing that, especially in this genre. You can say, oh, it's easier for them. It's really not. It's harder for them to get the distortion, that harmonic resonance of distortion, and be legitimate, and then even more so when they get into their head voice. But listen now, I said, I want to show you that it's not I just teach myself how to do this and show you how awesome Ken Tamplin is. It's not about that. It's about the technique, and I want you to see how effective that is with someone else, in this case, a different gender, being female, doing the same thing. Check it out. Here it is. The Trooper.
You take my life, but I'll take yours too. If I am asking, but I ran it through. So when you're waiting for the next attack, you better stand, there's no turning back. The biggest sounds, the chance begins. Let all this battlefield, no one wins. The smells of back and souls and horses' breath. As you're plugging, then I said I'm dead.
If you notice the transitional notes for Gabriella, and you're gonna go, oh man, transitional notes, what is all this stuff? I don't understand, Ken. Well, I cover all of this in my singing course, guys, but I'm just giving you information. So her transitional notes, she didn't go into head voice until she did the high harmony. You know, the higher notes, right? Now, her register breaks, so she's pulling chest and waiting longer to get into her head voice before she starts to make that transition in and out. She does do it, she just waits longer on it. So here we go. And a lot of times too, I'll do, when I do female versions or renditions of these songs, I'll usually do them in higher keys for the girls because it's easier for them to do, to make these transitions that's more consistent with the transitions that guys would do in a male register or within the male range. Okay, here we go. Now, if you also notice too, when I mentioned about not over singing the bottom and compressing the air, if you want to, go back and listen to these verses again. Listen to how round the vowels are. They're big and bold and round. They don't sound pinched and squeezed. And the reason is, again, because when we have the confidence to know that we're not thinking about this is the high note, this is the high note, and the body shuts down, this has to do with the psychology of singing, we're able to develop and build muscle memory for big, robust, round vocal sounds like this in order to be able to have the voice just sound effortless, like this big, huge, roaring lion with the distortion. So we get the distortion, we get all the tone we want, but we don't do it by pinching and squeezing. We do it by training open throat vowels first and then leaning into the sound to get the distortion that we're looking for. Pay close attention when you hear these kinds of things come across.
Rushes flying right around. We get so near, yet so far away. We won't live to fight another day.
All right, like I said, we'll have you guys listen to the full versions of this. I'll put this in the description, but this is how to sing like Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden. And like I said, we're gonna continue our series on this. If you like what you heard, please again, like and subscribe to my channel. I'm doing a lot of these by request too, by the way, so please also put in the description who you'd like me to do a takedown of how to sing like so-and-so, your favorite singer. I'm happy to do that, and definitely check out my next video.